thank you, Ari, for all that you do on behalf of enriching our lives through community scholar programs like this one. I am delighted to see Rabbi Avruj. It has been a number of years since I was together with you. My wife and I visited Buenos Aires about 5-6 years ago, and we spent the Shabbat as a guest of your community. And the things that were distinctive to me about being in your synagogue was on a Friday night, standing room only, over 1,000 people, like a high holiday service. That's a bigger turnout than we would get at Congregation B'nai Israel on a Friday night. The second piece that was distinctive for me is that rather than shaking hands when people entered the room, again, this is pre-COVID, everybody kissed each other on both cheeks. I've never seen such a kissy congregation. And third is how people were on the edge of their seat when you spoke, which I couldn't follow because of my limited Spanish, but you clearly have a way of telling a story. And so it's a delight for me. And the fourth, the therefore, and that is being invited to be guests of you and your wife and your family for Friday night dinner, a dinner that began after services, meaning about 11 o'clock at night, which I was told is the way that it's done in Argentina. So much that was distinctive and a delight to bring those memories back to mind. With that, let's begin with you telling us a little bit about your story, Rabbi Avruj, growing up in Buenos Aires, a little bit about your family background and how you became a rabbi.
Well, thank you, Rabbi Spitz. Thank you for remembering me that we are very strange people at the same time. So, and thank you for inviting me to talk for a while. Well, about your question, first of all, forgive me my poor English. I will do my best. My parents are a traditional Jewish family, non-religious at all. When I came with all these Michigan issues about Shabbos and kosher, it was a strange, very strange thing at home. But with the time, they became part. They became really part of this adventure, and even my father became the president of my first synagogue. So slowly they became to be part. But I began very, very young in a shul. There was 2 blocks from my house. I loved to sing. I don't know nothing about music, but I just love to sing, and I began with music. So I still, as you said, I still use the wonderful music of the Jewish life to inspire our neshama every Friday night. And I used to sing in this shul, and a very little and humble synagogue hear me in this shul, and they asked me to run the high holiday services. I was only 17 years old. I thought that they were looking for the big rabbi of the neighborhood, but no, I understood later that they didn't have any money for a rabbi or for a chazan or for nobody, so they asked me to go. So well, I went there. It was in a very, very poor and humble neighborhood of Buenos Aires called Mataderos. The slaughtery house is called this neighborhood, and I began to go there. I was very young, and it was a very, very little shul. It was closed. They only opened for high holidays, only this. And there was a very, very little minyan of 10 zaydes every Shabbat morning. No Kabbalat Shabbat, no nothing, only that. And I began to go with those zaydes every Shabbat morning, all of them from Poland, right? And there I studied a lot. I sang with them. I began to know what is Shabbos with them, and slowly this little keilah began to grow, because I made one bar mitzvah in a year. Now I have 100 bar mitzvah per year here in my synagogue. But it was so beautiful to see how you can begin to grow a place. It was very nice. It was an unbelievable time until in 1994, there was the bombing attack here in Argentina in the AMIA building, and the congregation only opened for high holidays. And so I said in this Yom Kippur evening, I said that it's like that we are putting another bomb in the synagogue because we will not open the big shul until the next Rosh Hashanah. So I really want to open for Kabbalat Shabbat next Friday. So people begin to come, and we open a very nice and powerful congregation in the middle of nothing, really, in the middle of a neighborhood. There was abandoned from the Jewish life, and it was unbelievable. There was a lot of American families that began to come here to Buenos Aires in the late 90s, in the big crisis of Argentina, to help with the JDC, with the joint, and they came here to Argentina. And they almost all those missions came to our shul in the slaughterhouse neighbor, in the middle of nothing, to see what has happened. I remember I began Kabbalat Shabbat at 9 p.m. because people in this neighborhood were all workers. Nobody will come at 7:30. They were all working until 8:30. So I began services at 9 when I opened it. It was a fantastic time, but I didn't even begin to study like a real study for rabbi, and I need some sources and something to lead this congregation. So I began studies in the Seminario Rabínico here in Latin America, in Buenos Aires, with the condition not to become a rabbi. I really didn't want it. I have a very strong position about this, because when you study, you can see and you can find that there were such big rabbis in our history, such an unbelievable stories, right? People that wrote thousands of books, and philosophers and thinkers, and or people that were so brave to take all your keilah in the middle of the war and take it around across the sea to another part of the world to save them. So there was rabbis with such a giants that I said, I will never be a rabbi like this. And in another part, I saw some rabbis that I said, I never in my life want to be like them. So I will not be somebody like this in my life. But so I found in the Talmud Yerushalmi a sugya. It's very interesting. That says that the Torah are two roads. The Torah is two roads. One road is from fire, and the other road is from ice. If you take the fire road, you will burn. And if you take the ice road, you will burn too. And that's it. That's the sugya. So what can you do? So I understood that every time that you have two roads, you have another third road in the middle that nobody sees. So I don't need to be this rabbi or the other rabbi. I can be the rabbi I can feel, and I can create. So there in this little shanty and in this little neighborhood, I began this dream, and I was very involved in all the issue of the economical crisis here in Argentina at that time with the JDC. And I began to work a lot in shanty towns and giving food for Jewish and non-Jewish families, especially non-Jewish families, with the JDC and the church. I became the director of projects for the non-Jewish population from the JDC here in Argentina, and there I met Cardinal Jorge Bergoglio, the Cardinal of the Catholic Church here in Argentina. In the shantytown, I met him, and we made a very interesting relationship. And in 2000, I just don't remember the time. Yeah, 2012, he invited me in the big and central cathedral of Buenos Aires, Argentina, to lead with him the ceremony of the Kristallnacht in the Cathedral of Buenos Aires. And then I invite him to lit the first candle of Hannukah this year in the shul. So he came and he lit the first candle in December 2012. And 2 months later, he became Pope Francis. I don't know if
let me pause right there.
Yeah.
Only because I want to continue with you becoming the rabbi.
Oh, yes.
But since we're talking about the Pope, many of us have admired him from a distance and his writings. What is he like up close as a person?
Well, it's very interesting because I can say that he's exactly what he says. Because when you see him with this kind of shoes and going, believe me, he came to Hannukah, to my shul, in the subway. He was the Cardinal of Buenos Aires. He can come with the big Mercedes-Benz in the front of the synagogue, right? With guards. And he came in the subway and he said, "Oh, Rabbi, it's such a heat here in December. It's impossible to go in subway." So he really practices this kind of life that he gives in his sermons and his books. It's very interesting.
Now, you have an MSW as well?
A what?
Did you study social work as well on your path to the rabbinate?
Yes, I studied social work at the U of M in Michigan, in the University of Michigan. Through the JCC, I went there for 3 or 4 months to study. It was not a BM; it was studying there in the U of M.
And so, back to you becoming the rabbi of a bigger shul. Was there a rabbinic role model who was your living role model?
Well, I have to tell you that I grew alone in this neighborhood, right? It was like 12 years that I went there every week, but I was alone in this place. But I have to tell that when I was a kid in my neighborhood, in this synagogue that I went as a kid, the person that lead this congregation, he was not a rabbi. That's why I think I didn't want to be a rabbi. He was very important for me. He made me my bar mitzvah, and he invited me to share with him the services as a very young guy. And I remember he made a revolution in this time, in the 80s, in Buenos Aires, with an unbelievable amount of people that went into his services. It was unbelievable. It was very famous here. And I saw him, and I feel that it was a very, very powerful way to be part of the life of the people, to change lives, to touch with a word, with an action, with a mitzvah, a life, and to change it, and to think that when you change a life, you are changing part. We are changing part of the destiny of all the story, right? So to be part of.
So focusing now on being the rabbi, you finished your studies at the Seminario, which is the conservative movement, the Masorti movement seminary in Buenos Aires. And you are now the rabbi of congregation Amijai. Tell us about your congregation.
Well, I studied, as you told, in the Seminary Rabbinico for almost 8 or 9 years, and then you have to go 1 year to Jerusalem to finish the rabbinical studies. But when I needed to go there, it was in 2001. It was in the middle of the Intifada. It was very hard. My brother-in-law died here at the Amia bombing, so we knew here. Is the brother of my wife, right? We knew here what is to feel the death from terrorism. So it was very hard to take my wife and to speak to my parents-in-law that I will go to Israel in such a moment. So first I went to New York. I was studying at JTS for 6 months. I was studying at the afternoon at JTS and in the morning in 770. It was very interesting. I was in the middle of the Messianic guys, and then I was
Let me pause a
them,
second. What drew you
yeah.
to 770? What did you hope to learn there?
Well, it was the only place that I will tell the truth that they welcomed me to live there. I came from Argentina with not a cent, and they really welcomed me as not another part, knowing that I will be a conservative rabbi. It was very, very interesting.
Yeah.
So I was living there and studying with them in the middle of the Messianic world. And then I went to the 770 at the afternoon to learn academically what I was living in the morning. It was very interesting. And then I went to Israel. It was very hard times in 2001. Then I went to Israel for a year to finish my studies. And now it will be 20 years from the rabbinate. And then and you asked me about
I'm going to pause you just to give us a sense of pacing. We have about another 15, 18 minutes of our conversation and some questions. So take us to your synagogue. You finished rabbinical school. What before COVID hit? What would we find at Congregation Amijai, and how was it distinctive to Argentina?
Well, you told in your presentation, it was we built here. First of all, Amijai is a very modern and young congregation. It has only 30 years, and the building is it's only it's less than 20 years. It's an unbelievable architectural work. We are studying this parasha about Betzalel and the work of the Mishkan. It's an unbelievable place to know. So if you come here in Buenos Aires, you have to come just to see
what's distinctive about it architecturally.
Well, it's like a tent. It's an unbelievable tent, and surrounded by gardens. It's an amazing place to be in the middle of such a city as Buenos Aires, right? And it was a place that was working when the Teatro Colón, I don't know if you know, the Colón Theater is one of the 3 or 4 most important theaters in the world. It was with repairings, okay? They were repairing it. Amijai was one of the places where the things, the cultural move of Buenos Aires was here. Since the Teatro Colón was not available, as an example. But what we built here was a very spiritual congregation with a profound love of Torah and study, with a very strong and powerful tefillah with music and meditation, and hundreds of people working as volunteers. And it was amazing. As you said, we used to, before COVID, we used to have in a regular Friday night, maybe 1,000, 1,200 people live here in the synagogue, kissing each other and all this stuff. But kissing and dancing and singing, it's a very powerful tefillah. We have around, as I told you, 190 to 100
Actually,
per year.
I'm now reminded that when I was in your synagogue, you had a full band, maybe 7, 8 people, and you closed your singing with the Beatles song, All You Need Is Love, as the punchline of your sermon, and your entire congregation sang along. It was very beautiful.
Sometimes we sing in Spanish, sometimes in English. Well, of course, that tefillah is everything in Hebrew. My sermon, my words are in Spanish, but we use the music as a very important tool to inspire. I remember this Shabbat with the All You Need Is Love. It was like very famous.
And where do you tend to get your melodies from? How is it different than what you would find in the United States, you think, or similar?
I think every place is singular, right? The same song, it will never sound the same. But we made our own music too. We are inspired by a lot of Hasidic movements of music, and we have a very, very, very important singers here and musicians. So we found our own way of tefillah, I can say. You can reach it in YouTube any Shabbos now, but what we live here in since COVID was very interesting, because we need, as every congregation, right? We need to build a virtual congregation. And
talk about that. With COVID, how did things shift as a virtual congregation?
It was very impressive. We are still impressed, but when we began to make our tefillot by streaming, actually I was we were streaming our tefillot before COVID, not with this kind of technology, but I began several years before, and I was very criticized about it for Hilul Shabbat and everything. But I began like 4 or 5 years before COVID, because I saw that you really can reach to a lot of people that they will never come to shul. People that are in an hospital, people that are with aging, people that are inside Argentina with any kind of rabbi or keilah. There are a lot of people that will never come, not because they don't want, because they can't. So I begin to stream our tefillot, but with a very little camera. With COVID, we increased the technology, and a lot of people that were very critics of this kind of streaming begin to call us to ask how to do it, and we usually have live like 1,200 screens live every Kabbalat Shabbat.
Now.
And then now, and
Yeah.
then for Sunday, in the next 2 days, there are a lot of people that, because of difference of timing, they see it in Israel, in Europe, I don't know, and a regular service we can have 5,000 or 6,000 views. In the last high holidays, we have 25,000 views every service. It was unbelievable, right?
And have you reached out to find out who those people are and how to connect with them?
It's not so simple. We are working technologically to do it, but we make it with not with the YouTube, but we build a very, very important Beit Midrash virtual too, and I give a lot of classes, and we give a lot of classes there by Zoom, and there you can reach people. And I can tell you that a social-cultural issue change, because before COVID, if somebody leave Argentina or leave my neighborhood, they are not they will be not a member anymore, right? But now we have members from Canada, from Miami, from all around the world, from Colombia, from Switzerland. We have more than 250 new families that are members for Amijai. They never went in Buenos Aires.
Talk about returning to synagogue with COVID changing. What's been your process of re-entering synagogue?
Well, it's very difficult. It's sometimes I feel that people are needing to come back. Sometimes I feel that people now, they change their routines, and they are very comfortable in their houses in the screen. So we open a door that is amazing, because the question is, now we have less people in our shul, or we have 3 or 4 times the people in our shul. Well, how do you count, right? How do you count your minyan? We open a window with the technology and the virtual issue, and now I am working to make the people come back again in the process, like of tshuva of lashuv to the shul, right? But of course we can't close the window in the virtual way, in the virtual world that we open. So we are working very hard to see or to think how people can come back. I have a very interesting thing that is happening Shabbat morning. We usually have in Shabbat morning a lot of bar mitzvah. I have 3 bar mitzvah every week. In the COVID, I canceled the bar mitzvah on Shacharit Shabbat, and I made that the bar mitzvah is only on Thursday morning, with tefillin, with everything, and the cries, and everybody is happy. And but in Shabbos, we began with a culture of coming to study and to pray, and not for a bar mitzvah service. It began with COVID. It was very successful. Now everybody, it's okay making their bar mitzvah only on Thursday morning. And during COVID, I have now 200 people every Shabbat morning that come to pray and study. At 10, I have the tefillah. At 11, I have the study session of Parashat Shavua with me. And I have 200 people. It's amazing. Virtual, right? And now the work is to bring them to the shul. And it's interesting because one thing is a class on Monday, on evening Monday, that you are in your house and you see the class, it's okay. But Shabbos, in the morning, there are people that like to, I don't know, to go to the Torah and say, Shukoyach, and Netzlacha, Mishebeirach, I don't know. And you see them with the talis, davening in the Zoom, in their home, and yeah. Nobody says, hey, when we go again to shul. So Friday night we began with the presence, but the Shacharit morning we are still working on it. So
I'm going to ask now some quick questions for like 5-10 minutes, and then we'll segue to questions from the larger group. Let's go back to the Pope for a moment. Have you had any contact with Pope Francis since he became Pope?
Yes, I went to Rome. I went to Rome 2 or 3 times, invited from him. One time was with my new book, because my first book it was a Sidur. It was the first edition of this book. I give it to him in this ceremony of the Kristallnacht in the Cathedral of Buenos Aires. So I made the second edition, and I went to Rome. And he told me that one thing that he bring from Buenos Aires was my Sidur. So, and then
What else do you what else is distinctively Argentinian about him?
everything.
Meaning?
I don't know. He you can see now he drinking mate and with the football issue, he's a fanatic of a little club here in Buenos Aires, and he's still fanatic. He's with the colors of his club. He still have this Argentinian issues so strange. When I will tell you, when I was his first trip was to, I don't know if you remember, it was to Israel. His first trip was to Jordan and Israel, Palestine, and I went there with priest, the Father Pepe here, with
Oh, you were part of that trip to Israel?
Yes, I went there with Jews and Christians from Argentina. And I met him in Jordan. It was in an unbelievable. It was very interesting. Listen, it was an unbelievable place in Amman. There is a very huge soccer ball stadium, and he made his tefillah in the stadium, and there were like 50,000 people there. It was interesting because Jordan, 99% of the population is Muslim. The 50,000 people there were the only 50,000 Christian in all Jordan, right? And when he get down with the Pope, I don't know, the mobile Pope, how to say?
Yeah, the Pope mobile.
The Pope mobile. He saw me in the middle of the people. So he stopped the mobile. He went down and he said, "Ale, come here," and he been this here, this here. You see, and it was unbelievable because in a Muslim country with the only 50,000 Christian people, he get down to embrace the Jew. It's like crazy, right? I think this is very, very Argentinian.
Yeah, and
it was like we meet again.
And even in that picture, the sense of embrace is very Argentinian. Yes, so what linked the two of you was social action, working in the barrio with poor people. How has that been a center of your synagogue and your continued rabbinate?
It's a very strong issue and part of our daily work here. As an example, now we are suffering very hard in one of the provinces of Argentina with an unbelievable fire that is consuming now the 10% of the province. It's very hard. And here in Amijai is one of the center in Buenos Aires to receive donations from all around the city to bring there. This is now this week, but we in the pandemic, in the COVID, we gave around 8,000 meals
yeah.
For people that don't have any way to eat. 8,000 meals we gave every month with a lot of people of the community that were preparing it in their houses for a lot of places of need. It was an unbelievable work with hundreds of volunteers.
So the last question, then we'll segue to questions from the others. The Argentinian Jewish community today, what's its makeup? Again, this is like a 3-minute answer. How would you characterize who's part of the Jewish community of Argentina today? And what is the one biggest challenge?
Well, we are, I think, the fifth biggest Jewish community outside Israel and the States. The fourth or the fifth biggest Keilah in the diaspora. We are around 180,000 Jews here in Argentina. It feels like a million, but we are only this because we are very, very part of the social and civil and politic, economic and mediatic life of Argentina. A lot of journalists and TV makers and politicians and economists and philosophers, very famous here in Argentina. They're all Jews. We have a very strong Ashkenazic congregation, 80% Ashkenazi, 20% around Sephardic, with hundreds of synagogues and Jewish day schools, hundreds. A lot of very strong JCCs. We have only here in Buenos Aires, we have 5 JCCs with more than 10,000 members each. Each. No, it's amazing. It's a very, very strong.
What would you say is the number one challenge for the community?
I think is the same challenge that we have as the Jewish people in the whole. We have in this time one thing that never happened in Judaism. The first time that we don't have. In times of the Bible, we have 12 tribes, each tribe with their signal, with their military arms, with their own color of skin, with their own Hebrew. And in the Tanakh, you have the kingdom of the north and the kingdom of the south, with their own capitals, with their own kingdoms. And then you have the Babylonian establishment and the Yerushalmi establishment with the 2 Talmuds. And then you have inside the Talmuds, Rabbah and Abaye and Hillel and Shammai. One say A and the other say Z in everything of Judaism. And then you have Ashkenazim and Sephardim in Europe, and you have in the Shulchan Aruch, in our Halachic book, you have the Ashkenazic way of thinking the Halacha and the Sephardic way of thinking the Halacha, Yosef Karo and Isserles. We always have a pluralistic and diverse people, right? Always, in all the centuries. This time is the first time that we are not, that the different streams of Judaism are not in one book. In times of the Bible, we had the Bible with all the streams. In times of the Talmud, all the streams inside. In times of Shulchan Aruch, all the streams inside the book. We need one book with all of them, with all of us.
So the greatest challenge is unity of such diversity.
Unity, but not to be the same, of course. Unity, understanding that there are a lot of different ways of thinking Judaism, and all of them are part of our book. We need this book.
And linked by a book. So there's much more to say. Ari, I know that there's been many questions on the chat of the close to 250 screens that are participating. I think at this point, did you want to ask some of those questions and leave me a closing question and the opportunity to allow Elie to sum up?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for joining us, Rabbi Elie from Buenos Aires. And people have been asking questions. So one is, how many family units do you have in your shul? How many members do you have in your synagogue right now?
We have 2,000 members. No, around 2,000 members.
And are you the biggest synagogue in Argentina, in Buenos Aires right now?
Yes. Now, yes, with about the amount of families and about the people that join our services and the numbers of families that participate in Buenos Aires, yes.
And how many clergy members do you have besides you? Because you can't serve that many people by yourself, right?
Me and another 2 student rabbis. They are not rabbis too, they are students.
And we have a question. How many families are intermarried in your synagogue? Is that a big issue in your synagogue? Is that something that you address?
Yes, we have, of course, intermarriage. I can tell you a percentage of. I can tell you, but it's an issue that we work a lot around the keruv of the families to be part of our congregation. We have our own giur program with our mikveh and our beidin. So we run a lot of conversions here in Amijai and in Buenos Aires. We have several families, intermarriage families that came with their kid for bar mitzvah, and the kid began with a giur katin, with a conversion of the kids, and then usually the father or the mother continue with their own studies too. But if not, it's not a problem. But
do you have many families that are gay and lesbian in your synagogue? Is that a part of your community as well?
Yes, we don't have something specific or apart for gay or lesbian members, but it's a political issue for us. I think that it's important to every member of the congregation, gay, lesbian, Jew, non-Jew, to be part of our minyan as another one of the minyan. No, not because you are gay or straight, you need a separate minyan. So you're part of our minyan.
Do you perform gay and lesbian weddings? Is that something that is happening in your community? I know it's happening out here more and more in open progressive communities.
Yes, we didn't have, I can say, yet. There was not a request even until now. There were very few weddings in the Jewish community here in Buenos Aires of gay and lesbians. I can say with two hands. No, maybe in the last years, 5, maybe 8, and there were not a lot of weddings, and we didn't have. It was a very important debate here in our congregation when it was permitted, not a lot of years ago here in Buenos Aires, Argentina, the gay and lesbian weddings. It was a debate here, and I feel and I know that there will be not a problem for our congregation to lead one.
We're getting a lot of questions about anti-Semitism in Buenos Aires today. What you feel? Do you feel safe on the street, for example, wearing a kippah? So I guess we should get to that question, which is, what is Jewish life like outside of the synagogue in Buenos Aires and in Argentina today?
Well, as you know, we have 2 bombing attacks 25 and 30 years ago in the AMIA building and in the Israel embassy. But even though I can tell that it's a very friendly place to live as a Jew and to walk with your kippah, there were a lot of political issues in this time for these terrible events, and there were planned abroad from Argentina. But here we have a very strong ties with all the religions. We are working to make Buenos Aires the capital of the interfaith of interfaith culture. You can walk. I walk more than 25 years with my kippah in the streets and in the subway, in the supermarket, and I've never had any problem.
You talked about strong interfaith relations. What about within the Jewish community in Argentina and in Buenos Aires? If there's so many synagogues, do you have working relationships with Orthodox and other synagogues, or are the communities pretty much separate?
In Argentina, it's a very difficult issue. the link between Orthodox and liberal synagogues. Very difficult. It's a political problem here, very, very, very strong. I think since in Israel will not arrange this thing, I hope with this new government in Israel we can go to a place of unity in this diversity. I hope this. I went to in a meeting with Mr. Yair Lapid last month about this, and I hope we can work and change the status in Israel. So because since in Israel is not a friendly, there is not a friendly way of understanding the different streams of Judaism, it will be very hard in other parts of the world. Anyway, my last coffee before coming here was with an Orthodox rabbi, but this is something between us, not between streams, or he's from Israel, between streams or institutions, right?
We're getting questions about your rich programming of concerts, lectures, dance, and theater. And can you tell us about that, the programs that you do, and who's in charge of organizing it? Apparently, it's something that we should all check into. I'm seeing a reference to that you have amazing programs in that regard.
In the
concerts, lectures,
yes,
and dance, theater.
Yes, but what is the question? I didn't understand.
I guess who is like generating these programs, and who is creating these things for your community? Yes,
we have a very strong professional staff here in Amijai. I work a lot to professionalizing the institution. Of course, we have our board and a very strong volunteer space that they made a lot of seminars in culture issues. But it's very important that all the congregation and all our Keilah understand the importance of professionalizing this kind of questions to make it more efficient.
Rabbi Spitz's wife Linda has a question. She wants to know whether there's state funding for religious activities in Argentina, and if so, is there? If there is funding, do you have to fight for your funding with other parts of the Jewish community in Argentina?
Of course, Moshe Rabbeinu did it in this parasha. We see Moshe Rabbeinu make a fundraising campaign. I work my own, especially in to raise for our different programs. We have families that help us a lot to go on with all our youth programs and adult programs. We have, I don't know how many spaces for adults in different ages, and we have our currently, of course, the giving the tzedakah that gives every member, and then we have the special donors that help with all our.
I think the question was, does the government give funding?
Government? No, zero.
Zero.
No.
What is that? What is the average?
Only our members. We only raise money from our members.
What's the average dues that people pay to your synagogue to belong? How much do people contribute on a yearly basis per family?
Monthly is $10 each person, $10 each month.
How big is your budget per year? How much? What do you spend per year on all of your programs?
Well, here you know that a dollar is a lot of money. Okay. Now, I can tell you in dollars, but here now the dollar is very expensive, right? Very. Our budget it's around $600,000 to $700,000 a year.
Okay. And can you talk about your music a little more? I'll end there with the music because that's something always interesting. My wife is a chazan, and so you mentioned that you have your own musical traditions that you have your own music that you do you
We
have
don't
a
have a chazan. We don't have a
right.
chazan.
So who you're the one who leads the service and you're the one who sings
I
with your
lead the
band?
service. I lead the service with yes, 4 or 5 and other members that we are all shlichei tzibur. Some of them with a keyboard, some of them with another kind of music instruments or with the voice. But all of us give our neshama as a tefillah through or the hands or through the voice. And there's no chazan or first chazan or second chazan. We are all there sitting as a one, just being part of the keilah, singing together.
My last question is, so obviously Friday night is the big night. Shabbat morning is much smaller. In our community, it's the opposite.
Yes.
If we get 100 people on a Friday night, that would be like, in person, that would be historic for our shul. It's just that people do not come to conservative synagogue on Friday night, but they come Shabbat morning.
Well, we last Friday we have 300, and it was like terrible for us.
Right.
It was historic.
That would be a sellout for our synagogue. So is that just the nature of the Jewish community in Argentina? It's a Friday night davening crowd.
Yeah, yes,
all over.
It's historic. It's historic. Always the Friday night here was it's more important than Shacharit Shabbat, and that's what I've been a lot of times in the States, and I saw an amazing crowd Shacharit morning. And as I told you, now I have 200 people on Shacharit morning. Is like epic for Latin America. It doesn't exist without the bar mitzvah. I mean, right? Only with the minyan, classic minyan, without any bar mitzvah, without any wedding, nothing, to have 200 people is like epic here.
But I guess it's because you guys stay up till 11 o'clock or later on Friday night. People aren't getting up. And then
eat
right.
at 9:30, and
so if Louis Sherby wants to fly from New York to Argentina and visit with the Jewish community, who does she call? Like, does she just show up at your shul? Can people just come into your shul? Is security? Is there someone they should call to arrange
yes,
to visit
course,
and get to know the community?
Of course, you can come. It's better if you call before. You can ask. You can write. It's a very it's a very easy mail. I can write it in the chat.
So they just basically email you and say Rabbi Spitz sent them, and that's not. Then they'll be able to get in and spend time with your community. Write. But I guess they should eat dinner before they come to shul on Friday night. Okay, Rabbi Spitz, I'll turn it over to you.
A closing question to pull together your service as a rabbi, Rabbi Avruj. If that 17-year-old Elie came to you to ask if he should be a rabbi, what would you now say to him about why he should or shouldn't, and what it's meant to you to have served your community?
Wow, what a nice question. I will say to him not to fight with the dream, right? And not to fight with to be or not to be, because to be part, as I told you, to be part of changing lives, to be part of continuing another lives from the past, and to be part of the mission that the Jewish people have for the world in your little space. It's an unbelievable feeling that your life have a sense, right? That you will never know how much a word, a song, an action, or a belief can change such an unbelievable amount of lives and words.
So I just want to say in closing, what a privilege it was for me to be in your synagogue, because it's a joy and a privilege to be with you now in conversation, but to see your congregation around you with all the joy of Jewish celebration was something I have goosebumps remembering, to know the impact you have made on the Argentinian community. So I thank you, Rabbi to Rabbi, for what I've learned from you, and as Jew to Jew, express gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you, Elie. Thank you very much. Thank you, Arif. Thank you, all of you. And I really hope see you soon here in Amijai in Buenos Aires.
Thank you. And I will send everybody the link to the website, but you can actually now participate online in davening around the world and come to Rabbi Aleh's shul. Remember, he's 5 hours ahead of us, which given the time you daven in the evening is going to be close to when most of us do daven, particularly on the East Coast. So go davening in Argentina this Friday night. Looking forward to seeing I will share the website, some of your music as well. We wish you well, and looking forward to having you all back when we go to Rio and meet with Rabbi Nielton Bonder March 14th to finish our trilogy of Latin American Jewish life. So thank you very much, Rabbi Spitz, for putting this together. Good to see you all. Take care.
Bye.
Be safe.
Bye-bye.